Alright, so today we're stepping off the boat back onto dry land and we're going to work on a Jeep. Today we're going to do the fuel injectors, and word of caution, remember, gasoline is flammable and it doesn't belong in your face. So you'll get to see that. Today we've got the 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee with the 4.7 high output motor, and today we are doing fuel injectors again. So the first time I bought some upgraded Ford injectors and the Jeep just didn't like it. So today we got some beautiful Mopar factory, triple the price fuel injectors. And shockingly, made in the USA. So that either means they're going to be great or they're going to break in a month. So we'll see. All right, so let's start ripping all this apart and getting to the fuel rail. First part in preparation here is to pull this fuse right here, which runs the fuel pump, and crank the Jeep at least a little bit and till it dies, just bleed out as much fuel pressure as possible. I measured about 60 psi at the fuel rail here, and you really just don't want that launching into your face. So do the right thing and bleed down as much fuel pressure as possible, and that is step one. After the fuel pressure is bled down, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the battery, take the air box off, which is 10 millimeter down there. Hose clamp here you got to loosen, and then just pull this guy off right there. And this should lift, maybe. Hard to do it one hand. Lift out like that. Now with that out, got to go ahead and undo all the nuts for the ignition coils. Of course, I have 8 of them. The ignition coils have to come out. And then we're going to disconnect the fuel rail here. We'll get to that later. And there's 8 injector clips as well. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the ignition coils, and I'll update you from there. So I'm going to do my best one-handed here. But to get the fuel rail disconnected from the fuel line, you're going to need a special fuel line tool. This, I believe, pops up like that. Just going to slide that back. Then get this guy, let's see, in there and clamped in there. And what you're going to do is push back on it. Let's see if I can. And get a face full of gas. So that happened last time too, but even bleeding from the Schrader valve down there and doing that, I still couldn't get all the pressure out. So be very careful when doing that. Probably experience the same thing there. All right, so now I'm going to go take the fuel rail out and start popping the injectors off. So just to clarify, before getting the fuel rail out, we have to unclip all 8 injectors. Now, when I did this, some of these red tabs, let's see, you have to pull back and then you can unclip it. Now, I had a lot of my red tabs break. It's just a second safety lock. I've been okay without them, but just be mindful of that. All right, so with the fuel rail out, we're gonna go ahead and get the new injectors ready. Something to note, clean as much as you can. Shop vac, compressed air, clean all this out so you have as little to no dirt as possible going down into the injector areas or anything like that. So now that the fuel injectors are out of the rail, all it is these clips that hold it in, and they feed into that slot right there. So what I'm going to do to get these ready to go is I've got some grease for the O-rings, the blue and black ones, and that'll just help everything slide together easily. And what you don't want to do is force it in there and tear the O-ring, then you're going to have a bad day. So I'm going to go ahead and get the grease on the O-rings and get these clipped in, and then we're going to start putting things back together. All right, so I just put the fuel rail back in. It's kind of tricky because you got to move all this stuff out of the way while you kind of fish it back in there. And I gave it a little press down on it, and then of course you'll line up with all 4 of those holes around it. So I'm gonna get the fuel rail secured down and start plugging things back in. All right, so fuel rail is back in, injectors are plugged in. Put the battery back and the fuse back for the fuel pump. And what I'm going to do is just going to cycle the key a few times. I'm not going to start it. Obviously, the coil is still out. Things are disconnected. What I want to do is check for leaks now before I put everything back together and listen and smell for fuel. So I'm going to go ahead and cycle the key here. Do this 3 times. And I've heard the fuel pump kick on each time. And I'm just going to go over everything and double check for leaks with the flashlight. And then if that's good, I'm going to start buttoning things up and get everything back together. One important reminder, so on the very last coil on the back, there's this ground strap that needs to go back on here. And there's another ground strap right there that has to go back on as well. And then there's 2 sensors that go on top of the coils. And we're getting there, putting everything back. The ignition coils are in. Got to tighten those down and clip them in. Then we'll do a first fire test and see how it goes. Okay, all the injectors are in, tightened down. Coils are in and plugged in. Just the air box and air filter is not plugged in, but that's okay. We're going to just do a quick test run and see what happens.